Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Rip Off and Duplicate podcast. I am your host, Kalhiel Dillard. Today, I'm joined with me by Corbin Claypool. Corbin is an amazing guy, a great figure, business figure, mentor, role model in our community, especially when it comes to the real estate professionals and loan officers. I'm really excited to have Corbin here today to really provide my audience with a great sense on how to form better habits, how to have a great mindset, and really how to have discipline in your own life. I know as a young agent, watching Corbin has really helped me in my own business. So I'm very, very fortunate to have you on the show, man.
I appreciate the introduction, dude. Let's make it happen. Let's provide some value and let's get it done.
I'm a former athlete, small business owner, and serial entrepreneur. The goal of the podcast is to inform and inspire entrepreneurs who are looking to get started but don't know how. Each week, I am going to highlight ordinary people in our communities who do extraordinary things. Absolutely. Before we jump in, a little bit about Corbin. Like I said, I've known you for 4 years now from my start in real estate. I feel a lot as a new professional, whether it's in any sales industry, you look or you need people to look up to or that look out for you, that you can kind of model your business through. And for some guys, it's YouTube, but I was really fortunate to have guys like you, Jason Pritchard, Darren Wade, in that real estate space to kind of, give me the blueprint by just watching you guys do everything that you guys do. So why don't you give the audience a little bit about your story and your background as well?
All right, perfect. So first off, talk a little bit about my family. I've got 2 little ones. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I've got a wife, and that's the foundational principles of what I do everything for is for that piece of my life. So that's kind of been a driving factor. When I got into the industry, I was doing okay, but I was still a little green, right? And I wasn't real driven yet. I didn't really have any goals. But I'll tell you, the moment my wife got pregnant is when the goals, that's when things really started taking off, because I was like, I got to make something happen now, right? I have to apply myself and go all in. So that's a little bit about my background. A mentor told me, the main things in my life are fitness, finance, and family. So those are the 3 things that I focus on at this point in my life. Fitness is, jiu-jitsu, and I'm a 1-stripe white belt, big 1-stripe white belt, but learning the gym, and those things are kind of on the fitness side. And then finance is my business, and then, of course, my family. So that's a little bit about my background. As far as getting into the industry, I started at a company by the name of Homebridge. That was like the first company that I was at. I think that's when I actually met you. In 2020 or end of 2019, I moved to Nexa, and that was a great company. I learned a lot. They're a mortgage brokerage, and I was able to really scale and grow my business. I learned a lot. And then fast forward to today, I got an offer to be a part owner in a big local company here in town. So moved over and made that move. It's been awesome. Got great partners like Jeremy Engel and other people helping me out to grow. And so that's where I'm at.
Awesome, man. That's some good stuff. Let's talk about a little bit before, like what your life looked like before entering into the mortgage industry. What were some of the things you were doing, and then how did that kind of transition as you entered a more professional lifestyle?
Yeah, so early 20s was like had no plan. Literally had no plan. I was living in San Diego. It was a lot of fun. I lived across from Petco Park. And
because you watch the baseball games from where you're at,
you could hear it. Okay. You couldn't see anything. I was in a little 1-bedroom condo, man. It was 700 square feet. I was a personal trainer down there. I was trying to go to school, but I really wasn't driven or knew. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was just kind of going through life, partying a little bit too much, drinking a lot, doing these things that I was just kind of like numbing myself at the time from where I wanted to be, I guess. But early before that, that's kind of where it came, kind of came from. Early 20s, and then before my early 20s, out of high school, really went into like a depressive time when I was just like really in this time of just not doing too well. So kind of fast forward, pulling out of that, that's when I got into growth, and that's when I got into the mindset, and that's when I got into all these different things that allowed me to grow to where I am today.
Yeah. What can you explain to us, like some of the habits that you had to form in order to get past that stage of depression, like just graduated high school and not knowing what you wanted to do? Like, how did you get yourself back into that mindset of like, man, I could turn it around. It's not too late before you get too deep.
Right. Just baby steps, dude. So it's not like I just woke up one day and I just became insanely disciplined, right? And I still have work to do, by the way. I'm still not as disciplined as I want to be, but it took time. The first step for me was going to the gym. The gym saved my life. Just kind of like that consistency of doing something to better myself, started pouring into other areas of my life. So that's how I got started. Does that kind of answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. And even for me right now, I feel like I'm in a moment of my life where I'm going through transitions, whether it be personal or in my business, that I know I need new habits, but it's kind of like, how do I form them and who do I look to kind of, be guided? How do you continue to self-educate? Like, do you have a mentor currently, or how do you continue to self-educate?
What I've realized is, especially in these times right now when people are talking about recession and all this economic stuff, it's really important to stay plugged into a positive sphere of people around you, right? People that are lifting you up. For me, people that are godly, like people that really are trying to help me grow, but also not when you're just around them, but staying plugged into books, audios, like putting good positive stuff in your mind, because there's so much garbage out there on Instagram, Facebook, social media. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole and get sucked into that stuff, that you don't even realize that it's pulling you into that negative mindset and lowering your belief systems. So for me, staying plugged into audios, books, things of that nature, and being around good, solid people that I know, like, and trust, are important to me.
Absolutely. But is it possible to change your belief system? And how would one go from having one belief to a more positive, outlook on just personal growth and their life in general?
Absolutely. So first off, you got to cut the vices. Like, if you're I'm not saying alcohol is all bad and stuff like that. I do think that a drink here and there is okay with family, friends, things of that nature. But if you have a drinking thing and you're drinking too much, or you're smoking too much weed, or you're doing these things, those things are pulling you back. So I think the first part is cutting the vices for me, and then just, again, same thing, baby steps. Once you can cut those vices, now you can start taking the baby steps to improve your life and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, some of the steps that I had to take within my own life have, been surrounding myself around different people. I've done 75 hard, I think 2 times. I'm not going to bullshit. I have not completed 75 hard. Yeah. It's tough, but how I felt when I was going through that 75 hard is like the momentum that I had in my life, the momentum that I had in my business.
Right.
And that feeling that I felt there is what continued to keep me pushing forward, whether that be in my business or personal life as well. Right. Do you have any mentors or role models, maybe here locally, or a networking group that you can look to, like even as big of a professional as you are there people that you can look up to?
Absolutely, man. So one of the guys that brought me into this company, Jeremy Engel, he's a mentor of mine, and he's a friend, and he deals with all my bullshit. You know what I mean? He helps me out. He's like, dude, stop. You're doing this wrong, or So I've had somebody who's been there, who's closed 4 to 5 times the amount of deals that I have closed, and been doing it over a track record of 10 to 15 years. Wow. That he's able to really mentor me and give me pointers, right? I'll give you an example. So at Nexa, I don't know what I was doing, bro. I never learned business. My family never taught me business, right? I was doing everything myself. So one of the things I was doing is paying people way too much money, all right? Which is okay, it's great. But I had people making $300,000-$400,000 a year. Wow. That were operations people, right? And I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't make that kind of money, but they have to contribute a lot to the company to make that kind of money. And so I learned a lot moving over here. When he took a look at that with me, he's like, man, that's just not going to work, especially in the market that we're in right now with rates being higher. We've, been blessed to stay pretty busy. If I had that business model there, I would be in a lot of trouble. I'd be in a roll of hurt right now. So I scaled everything back as far as pay and things like that, which was very uncomfortable, but it was better for the long-term growth of the company. So if I hadn't had a mentor, to teach me that kind of stuff, I'd be wondering where I'm at right now. That's why I also think it's like a God thing too, man. Like God put me in this situation so Absolutely. I could learn more about my business and what I need to be doing.
Absolutely. Has there been a moment in your business where you faced adversity, and how'd you overcome that adversity?
Oh, hell yeah, man. Yeah, no, all the time. I mean, there's times when I'm just like wanting to quit. You know what I mean? I'm just like, and I think everybody has those moments where you're just like,
Absolutely.
Screw this, dude. I don't know if I want to do this.
What keeps you going?
One, the support network, staying plugged in and things of that nature, right? But what really keeps me going as well is at the end of the day, I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to quit.
Oh, yeah.
And I came from an athletic background. I was never a star athlete, but I played sports my whole life. And I think it helps you big time in life playing sports because it pours into business, especially business, because business is such a competitive go environment. So one, I'm not a quitter, and two, just getting back up and going, dude. Like just trying to feel a little bit better every day, right? Like if you have that downturn and you're like feeling like shit, just try to be a little bit better the next day, a little bit better the next day, and all of a sudden you have your momentum back and you're pushing again, right? So yeah, no, we all have those downtimes. Even right now in the industry, the mortgage industry is a tougher industry right now, being realistic, right? And so it's like, how do we improvise, implement, and grow even in these times? And sometimes it's hard to kind of keep that mindset, but we just keep pushing forward.
What are some things that you're doing with this change in the market that's helping you continue to grow your business and move forward?
So last year, one of the complaints I was getting in my business was you're not involved enough in the business, right? You basically are handing everything off. And as a realtor, right, you want your lender to be involved. You want your lender to at least be, know that lender's taking care of the client. We were taking care of the clients, but we just didn't have that personal touch. So one thing I've added back into my business is just a scheduled personal touch with my clients. So I make sure I'm contacting my clients at least one time a week, a couple times a week, just going over things with them or answering any questions that they may have. So that is something I've changed. And then also just implementing and adding things into the business that are providing a lot more value for the realtors. So the question went from how can we do more deals to how can we provide more value to our agents? Which it's funny because when I first got into the industry, it was how can I provide the most value to agents? And I was coming up with all these different things. Then I got super busy and I was like, okay, we're super busy now. Let's just close more deals. But when you lose that foundational principle of how can I help the other person, you're not going to be successful for very long. You have to be providing value for the other person. So that's the changes that we've made in our mindset this year.
That's some good stuff. Would you say during that period of growth, the growth that you're experiencing, that you over leveraged yourself? Is there a such thing as being over leveraged basically in your business? Did it get to a point for you that you had so many systems in place that it wasn't necessarily putting it on like coast or anything, but you had functions to take care of it? Was that something in your business that you had to look at, how many systems you currently have in place and make changes to those?
Yeah, so I've never had any like liquidity issues or anything in my business, but I have made changes with my systems as far as like points of contact, how the deal goes through escrow, things of that nature, if that's kind of what you're asking.
Absolutely. So doing the amount of business that you've done in such a quick time as well, like, is there anything that you would credit to that success, or, what's one thing that you consistently did every day, to amount the kind of success that you currently have?
First off, hopefully this doesn't sound cheesy. I've mentioned it like 3 times, but God, like honestly, like Absolutely. God has really helped push me in this direction, even in times when I'm like away from God and I'm not really focused on that, right? And I'm like, I'm doing this myself. That's when things always get like rougher, right?
Yeah.
So God for one, and then having the foundational help of my wife. Like my wife takes care of the kids for the most part, And, during the day, she's a stay-at-home mom. So if I didn't have those two support, I mean, it would be very, very hard to consistently focus on my business every single day, right? So those are the two things personally that help me. And then I kind of mentioned this, but just being surrounded and being plugged in every single day have helped me grow.
You had mentioned in our pre-interview, you had said people need to realize that the secret to success is in the mind. Mm-hmm. It will empower people to grow. I want you to elaborate a little bit more on that. What exactly do you mean by that?
So let me gather this thought for a second. Thinking how to phrase this. Have you read the book, The Law of Success, or Think and Grow Rich?
I've read Think and Grow Rich.
Okay. Law of Success is a good one too. Mm-hmm. So the power of the mind is super powerful, right? There's a fundamental belief system that all these people that are crushing it have, mm-hmm. and they believe that they can do it. If you believe that you can do it and you actually believe that in your mind, you're going to find a way to do it. And I believe too that when you have that mindset, people, places, and circumstances come into your life to allow you to get to that next level. So that's what I mean by the power of the mind, and honestly, always sharpening it, always reading a book on it, always doing something to make sure that your belief system is being leveled up, right? So that's kind of what I mean by the mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm in this process for me right now as an entrepreneur. I feel like I'm in growth stage where I'm looking for things that positive influences, positive people to come into my life, in and out. And the importance of having a growth mindset to me and what that's done to my life when I've been in situations where I didn't have enough money or I didn't really have that much faith in myself. Having a growth mindset to overcome some of those things have, allowed me to continue my journey as an entrepreneur, my journey in real estate, because there was times where I wanted to quit and I just told myself, you can do this, keep going. And the next thing you know, I got a deal and then I'm selling a house, and it reassures myself that I am supposed to be here.
And I always feel like it's right before the breakdown, before the breakthrough. And you hear it all the time, right? There's always it's like, damn, this is getting so hard. Oh my gosh, should I quit? And it's like, once you just get past that, the breakthrough happens. I've seen it time and time again in my business and in my life.
And speaking on that, just another thing that I wanted to touch on is I find kind of in my business, just starting off, is when I go back to the things that I know I'm supposed to be doing, like when I know I'm supposed to be making cold calls or be on the phone or touching base with clients, when I go back to the routine of success, that formula of success that I know works, my life becomes better. It makes it easier to show up every day and really live in my true passion. Is that similar for you in your experience?
Absolutely, man. When you have, I feel like work is a gift, I feel like, because when you're consistently going after it and taking action, you just feel better, right? Mm-hmm. So, absolutely, yeah, to answer your question, I feel spot on with that.
Are you still passionate about the work that you do, and how do you stay passionate, when you're going through a career path?
Yeah, so I mean, there's things about the mortgage industry that I don't necessarily like, right? I don't like sitting down at a computer and looking at numbers. Luckily, I have staff for that these days, but I still do it occasionally. But the things that I like are building things. Like I've always liked building things, even from a young age. I love building Legos. I had this idea that I wrote down on a paper when I was young that I was going to build this dome house, and I drew the dome house, and I had to be like 10 years old. So I've always kind of been like that forward-thinking, visionary type thing. So that's what keeps me motivated. Absolutely. Is the growth, the forward-thinking, helping the most possible people, providing the most possible value. That's
what's before we were talking about your car, you got a Shelby. Is having things like that outside of work a part of your creative process? That having things that you enjoy, is that a part of your creative process?
Absolutely. So I mean, I don't really splurge on too much, but I did splurge on that, man, because it was on my vision board since 2018.
That's awesome.
So it's actually posted on my vision board in my office in my house.
What did it feel like getting something on your vision board?
Surreal, man. Surreal.
Man, I can't really imagine.
They opened up that trailer and just the iconic Shelby 67 lights. just backing out. It was awesome. So it's really a special thing, and it kind of not that I'm not one that works for material things. Everybody likes material things. Everybody likes a nice watch or a nice car, things of that nature. But it's not the foundational thing, but it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So,
and speaking of the material things, you're working hard, you're providing for a family. As a young man, I don't have a family, but I have a family at home. I wish to provide for my family. Any man can only wish to provide for their family. Like, what does that feel like as a man, knowing that you're able to show up for your wife, show up for your kids, and like, how does that affect your business, your life?
Well, that's the main thing that motivates me to crush it every day, man, are those two little boys and my wife, and I want to set the best possible example for my sons, not just in business, but spiritually, for, fitness wise. Like, I want them to see the full picture of what I personally believe a man should be. So, yeah, it motivates me, man. That's what really drives me.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of what I do is for my family. I got a younger brother, younger siblings, younger cousins who I have to be that role model for. And it's like, if I can show them what I think, what hard work looks like, what sacrifice for their family looks like, what real love looks like, then they have no other excuse but to give that to their family members. And that just showing anybody love can make such a simple change in their life. And sometimes I feel fortunate. I am very fortunate to have great men like you who come in my life, show me the kind of love that they have for their family. And it gives me a vision of how I should not only live my life, but how I should treat other people. So just giving you your kudos there, man.
Dude, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So speaking on, like, let's change it a little bit. So for someone who wants to form better habits or have a more positive mindset, what's step one for them? And what's step one for them? Let's start there.
Just try. I would say just start by trying to do something small. Like, just get going. Start with just going to the gym. If you can just go to the gym and you can commit yourself to going 4 days a week, just start with that. Then add in something else. It stacks over time. People that try to just, I'm going to ultimately become as disciplined as Jason Pritchard. It's not going to happen right away. It takes time to get there. Like, Jason's been working on it for 5, 6, 7 years of mental growth, reading, physical growth. So just start by doing something small. Start by getting to the gym and holding yourself accountable to that.
Why do you think most people don't even start?
I think a lot of people are fearful of success and like what they're capable of. I don't think they realize that, but I think people are way more capable of things than they give themselves credit for. And they're just stuck in these habits, man. I mean, they're stuck in these bad habits.
Was there anybody that came into your life that reassured how capable you were?
Wes Watson.
Oh, I love Wes Watson.
Dude, I hired Wes Watson as a high-performance coach.
I watch all of his stuff on Instagram, like just everything.
Yeah. Man,
that's a badass guy right there.
No, he's awesome, dude. So I actually hired him as a high-performance coach, and it was at a time in my life when I was drinking a little too much and smoking a little bit too much weed, right? And he basically looked at me and he was like, the first meeting, I won't forget it. He's just like, what the fuck are you, excuse my language, like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, you have 2 little boys or 1 little boy at the time. What are you doing with your life? And that's just how he is. He just calls you out. He's like, what are you even doing, bro? You're ruining your life. You're setting a shitty example. And I was just like, shit, he's right. So sometimes you got to have those people in your life that are willing to call you out, because most people aren't willing to give you that level of accountability, you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's who kind of helped me reignite in 2020.
How can we be better friends, business partners? I know as men, like we don't really have those conversations that we need to with our friends. Like I do a lot of business and I talk to my friends about it, but it's really not the kind of conversations that we probably should be having. How can we open up the door as men, as business professionals, to have those conversations that matter, to be more open, talking about what's really on our mind? How can we just start from there?
That's a great question, man. I don't know the answer to that, but I could say holding each other accountable to each other's goals and being honest with each other, being real with each other. And when we see each other dropping the ball, when we see each other lacking, we say it how it is. We tell each other, like, get your ass up. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? You know, why are you smoking that? Why are you doing that? Why are you drinking too much? Calling our friends out and holding them to a high level of accountability,
Absolutely.
I think is the best thing.
How should one respond to, such criticism like that when it's coming from a friend? Or how do they know it's out of a place that someone really cares about them and aren't,
Because energy is real and you can feel somebody's intention. So if somebody's intentionally trying to hurt you and say something, you're going to feel that. If it's coming from a place of love and a place of accountability, you're going to feel that too. So it just depends on how the person's, delivering that information to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What do you think is the biggest challenge that you're facing in the real estate industry right now? Besides rising interest rates, or rising interest rates?
It wouldn't be rising interest rates. I think that's kind of like what everybody's saying, and I think it's kind of I don't want to use the word weak, but it's just kind of like it's a little weak. Like you just got to get over it. Like that's just the way it is. That's out of your control.
Yep.
So I think for me, the biggest thing right now is I am a very loyal guy. So I have staff that I know, like, and care about a lot. And they've been my staff for 3 years. And they're important to me. And people aren't disposable to me, which maybe I'm being a soft business owner. I don't know. But there are times when it's like, okay, we're closing, like let's say I was closing 35 to 40 deals, right? I'm still closing about 20 deals a month. I had a really bad month last month. But knowing when you have to let somebody go. That's the hardest part for me. I've had to let somebody go this year, or 2 people go, and I did not like doing it. Yeah. That was one of the worst things for me. So I think that's probably my main thing right now is figuring that out, because that's a learning process for me. It's the first time I've had to do that. And then also being able to grow and scale in this market still, because right now is a great opportunity to take market share. It's a great opportunity to have more business partners and grow and provide more value to the market. And maybe there's not as many deals out there right now, but these are all seeds that you're planting for a year down the road, 2 years down the road to just blow up.
Absolutely. You're playing the long game with it.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah. If you're not playing the long game right now, if you're not looking 2, 3 years, 4 years down the road, you're not going to make it, right? These guys that are focused on like, I got to have this deal, they have commission breath, they're going out of business, they're closing like 1 deal a month and they're dying. So you got to be thinking long-term of how you can provide the most value to the marketplace.
Absolutely. Man, what's something that you're doing to continuously improve your leadership, as a business owner, as a team leader? I know you had mentioned you had a sports background, maybe not the best in sports or whatever. So how do you learn to continue to be a better leader and develop within your role?
So first off, it's kind of what I mentioned, just taking action and holding myself accountable first. Too many people tell other people what they should be doing without actually doing the shit themselves. And I can feel, like, the energy's different. Yep. People can feel the energy. People know if you're fucking full of shit or not. All right? So when I'm not holding myself accountable and then I'm telling my staff to do stuff, or another loan officer, my energy is way different. Like they're not getting that same vibe. When I'm on another level holding myself accountable, they're held accountable just because of that. So first off is holding myself accountable, and then getting involved in something that's been like a hobby. I'd say like I'm a hobbyist jiu-jitsu guy. Has been really good for me. Kind of learning a new art, getting involved in something that I'm not great at all, and I'm learning and being the beginner at something, right? So you go in there, you just get humbled, because I think it's good to constantly get humbled, right? Constantly get the realization that I am not as great as I think I am, right? And so jiu-jitsu does that for me.
So I've seen a lot of business professionals take on jiu-jitsu. What's it doing for the mind, though? Because a lot of these people are like having transformations, not only physically, but it seems like they're getting a lot up here. Is it the person teaching it, or is it jiu-jitsu as a whole? Like, how's that impacted your life? Because I see you post about it all the time. It's clearly something you're passionate about.
Yeah, it's been something that's helped me out a ton. And I think that, first off, just the discipline of going. And then I think there's something to being able to like protect yourself. I think that when you have the ability to protect yourself, I think it's like a basic human need. And I think it allows you to just feel better about yourself. That's another thing. Second thing, or the third thing, would be just the challenges and being away from the phone. Like when you're rolling and you're sparring with somebody, you don't have your phone on you, right? You're constantly being challenged how to work through a problem. Somebody's choking you the hell out. It's like, how do I get out of this? So you're constantly put in these situations that are tough, and you have to work through them to get out of it.
Yeah, as a loan officer, in this market, especially in the position you've been, like your phone's probably ringing off the clock. How have you, the past 3 years, man, I don't even want to know what that's felt like, but how have you found those moments to like unplug? And because I know for me, just having the time with my phone off right now is even refreshing. Like, how do you unplug and continue to stay like grounded?
Yeah, so if I said I'm perfect at this, I'd be lying, because the reality is it's something I still struggle with, is not being on my phone at night, not getting stuck on a reel or something, then scrolling. So the best solution that I've found for it is just putting my freaking phone down. I went off social media for like 3 weeks, and it was a game changer.
Yeah, was it really?
Yes.
What did you accomplish during that time? Or like, why was it a game changer?
I just feel like I was able to get a lot more done. I felt like I didn't really give a shit about what was going on with Joe Schmo or whatever. I was just more focused on my goals. And even getting back on social media, I can actually see a difference. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I implement this for my business, but at the same time not be on this where it's affecting me, right? Because it also takes away from my family too, is getting on it at night, being addicted to it, because I'm on my phone all the time. So it's like an addiction thing, right? So I need to figure out how to be able to get off of it. And the best solution that I've come across is just putting the freaking phone down, putting it on airplane mode, throwing it in the charger at like 8 o'clock, and then just spending that time with my family, putting my kids down to bed, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard for me to unwind. Like and I feel like as a young adult, you can be so consumed about the shit that's going on, and it's not even that you need other things, but I'm very freaking competitive, so I can see some shit and just be like, man, I'm not working hard enough, and it just pushed me to another level. But that's just not good all the time. Sometimes I had to figure out that it was okay for me to relax, unwind, and enjoy my time at the gym. And I had a really like intimate moment with myself one time when I had just closed a deal for real estate. It was like my perfect morning. I envisioned it all. I woke up, threw some water in my face, like I went to go cash a nice check, and I wasn't really on my phone, but I was just realizing and recognizing all the stuff that the universe had to offer for me, as long as I did the right thing. And at that moment, I was like, damn, everything that I did before this led up to this, and all it took for me to do was continue to do the right thing. And at that moment, like, just a weight was lifted off my shoulders, man. I felt I'm a very stressful person at times, but just having that moment of realization to where if I just stick to my guns and do the shit that I need to do, good will come after it. And I think a lot of people, they stop themselves before they even begin, and that's what keeps people from really going over the edge.
I want to add to that too, because I think a lot of it is we feel like sometimes the more we work, the more success we'll have, the faster we'll grow, which is true to some extent. But I want to challenge people to ask, like let's say you have 4 hours in the day. What can you get done in that 4 hours? Because if you dial that in, you can probably get more done in 4 hours than most people get done in 8. Just by being focused and making your calls are doing whatever, right? And Grant Cardone brought that up. He was like, I don't want to be the guy that's working 20 hours a day. I want to be the guy that's working 6-8 hours a day or 5 hours a day. Maybe some weeks I work more and some weeks I work less, but I'm making the most. I'm making the most impact, right? So to your point, I think we just have to make sure that we're taking that time for ourselves as well, because it pours into our business and other avenues.
Absolutely. And I think that was one nugget that I learned from either you or JP for like a year straight. I would just wake up, go to the gym, and then immediately hit the phones for like 2 hours. Right. What that did for my business in that time, like what that did for my growth as an entrepreneur, just setting out that time to where I knew I had to do something. It didn't pay off the next day. But man, when I needed something bad, then you feel the fruits of your labor kind of coming back, and like, you worked hard then. Let me give you something now. So that's always good.
Planting those seeds and then you harvest, right? There's 2 seasons: seasons that you're planting and season that you're harvesting. So
yeah, my brother would like that. Farmer G.
There you go.
Man, Corb, I feel like you're sharing some great stuff with the audience, man. Let's talk about, you spoke about spirituality a few times. Like, what did that look like as a young man? Were you always spiritual, or when did that come in?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian household, and that's basically how I grew up. And I've always been pretty spiritual. And I'd say, like, for the last 2 years, I've kind of like fallen away. I had fallen away from like my faith of Christianity a little bit, and I was just questioning everything, which I think is actually healthy, because it allowed me to actually do research and not just listen to what I was told. And I read everything. I listened to my buddies who were Jehovah's Witnesses. I read the part of the Quran. I was just reading everything I could read. And I think for me personally, the foundational belief system was I came back to Christ. I'm a Christian, but that's basically my spirituality. And I believe that through that I can grow my mind and things of that nature. A lot of what everybody else talks about, but yeah.
I've had some like moments as a young adult to where, you're drinking, you're partying, you're smoking, like there's women, but at the root of it all, I feel like as a young adult, you kind of know if you have or grew up around morals, like you kind of know what the right thing to do is. Right. And for anybody watching, like it's always the right time to do the right thing and to make the positive impacts that can change your life. So if you're thinking that you're not that person that, that good things can happen for, it starts by telling yourself, you are that person, you are worthy enough, and good things will happen to you. But just having that mindset of, whether it came from lack of self-worth, who loves me, I feel like at the end of the day, being grounded in those spiritual roots, or just whatever that may be, doesn't have to be God or whatever, but just understanding that, someone does care about you through those tough times has kept me moving forward a lot of the times. What's the impact of spirituality been on your family as a father?
Oh, it's huge, because it gives us foundational principles to kind of like raise our family by, right? So that's how it's helped us. I want to add to that though, Dr. Joe Dispenza, have you heard of him?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he talks about rewiring your brain, and to kind of add to the, somebody may be listening that feels that way, that they can't get out of this rut, or they're in this negative mindset, and it really comes down to pathways in your brain, right? You need to just rewire your brain, and sometimes that's hard. It takes time. But that same thought of lack, that I can't do this, you just need to change that to I can do this. And that first I can do this will not feel like you can do it. It feels like you're lying to yourself, right? But then you just keep saying that. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And then all of a sudden, now you formulated this belief system that you can do it. So to add to that, man, Dr. Joe Dispenza is a great person if you guys ever want to read his books or anything. So.
Absolutely. Actually, I just listened to an expert from Dr. Dispenza, and he was talking about future thinking of, how to really future cast to formulate the life that you want to live. And lately, I've been writing letters to my future self, or writing them to my brother, and and it's been so powerful, like just in those moments of me from where I came from or where I come from to where I want to go. It gives me the actual belief that these things can happen, that they should happen, and that they are going to happen.
I love that, man. Envisioning.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you envision your life this way? Like, I heard you talked about battling depression and things like that.
No, at that time, I was that guy that was in lack. I didn't think I was capable of anything at that time. It just took time to get through that. But yeah, I didn't think I was capable of anything at that time. I started envisioning when I was probably about 26, 25. And I got into a company called Enagic. It was a network marketing company. Have you heard of Kangen water?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was selling Kangen water.
I know a guy that does that great here in Fresno.
Yeah, no, it's a great industry because it's a lot of positive people. And that's where I really, for the first time in my life, was surrounded by people that told me you can do it. Right? Like you can go after your dreams and all this kind of stuff. So I learned a lot of those foundational principles there. And then I decided, like, what if I apply this to the mortgage industry? What if I took this knowledge of like my mindset and moved it into the mortgage industry? And that's when I started envisioning, like, okay, I want to be the number one producer in Fresno. Okay, I want to be the number one producer in Nexo. Okay, I want to close $100+ million. And there is definitely power in envisioning what you want and then taking the daily action steps to get there. And also just having the knowingness that it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Is the biggest thing, right? And not that it's perfect every time, but having the goal and then having a knowingness that it's going to happen. And sometimes if your goal's too big and you don't have that knowingness, maybe you need to lower your goal a little bit. And people don't like me saying that, but lower it a little bit so that you can believe it, right? Once you can believe it, get that goal and then level it up again.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people don't like changing their goals, but I follow the whole SMART goal thing. I always, reevaluate my goals, and then if I have to, I will change them to better suit where I am. Because I know in different seasons or different quarters of the year, I'm in different places with my own personal life. So I really try to roll with it and continue to live in my season rather than be directed by how stuff's happening in that moment, and that's really helped me.
Absolutely. I think it was Warren Buffett that said people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10 to 15 years.
Absolutely.
Right? So we have to be thinking long term of what we can do. What is our business going to look like in 10, 15 years rather than like, because if I'm being realistic with myself, I'm not going to go out into the market and all of a sudden go from 100 million to 600 million this next year. It's not going to happen. I mean, there's things that have to happen to get to that level of business. So it takes time.
Absolutely. Speaking on goals, do you have what's a long-term goal you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
Yeah. So, I mean, Jeremy and I are going to grow this company. We want to create $100, $200, $300, $400 million company and expand out. We're licensed in California right now. So we're going to get licensed in Texas, Tennessee, and we're going to work on basically establishing branches out there and whatnot. And then at the same time, growing my own production, growing these loan officers. I have 5 loan officers now. I have a 6th one coming on, and just planting seeds and helping them grow. Watching their foundational growth is really fun for me. Planning other offices in California. Like my main focus right now is my mortgage business when it comes to business. I'm not really trying to go into other avenues. I was watching this podcast the other day and it was talking about this guy that sent an email to Mark Cuban. And he asked him, hey, he was an aspiring entrepreneur. I have like 7 businesses I'm doing right now, like da 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 da. And Mark Cuban emailed him back and said, hey kid, just focus on one. And so that's my main thing right now is focusing on my mortgage business. And then eventually, depending on what happens, maybe selling it off or I don't know, who knows?
Do you have an age that you want to retire by?
I don't think I ever really want to 100% retire, dude. I think that's boring. All right. I want to slow down and go travel and have fun. And, when I'm 50, 60, but I think I'll work through my 50s. Like once I get to, I'll probably work really hard to 40s, 50s, just because I like it. I love it. I like working. I don't think I would be happy if I was just sitting on my ass all day. I'd be very bored.
Absolutely. looking back on the things that you have accomplished, like, is there something that you would reach back and tell that 18-year-old Corbin who was depressed? Like, what would you tell him looking back at it now?
That's a great question. Never thought about that.
Would he be happy with you now? Would
I think he would. I think he would. Like, if you saw the picture of me at this time, right? I was a freaking wet noodle growing up, dude. Like, I was 140 pounds sopping wet, literally, right? And then I got really heavy. I was pretty overweight, which is hard to believe, right? But 18, 19. I would like to be like, show him a picture, be like, here's your family, right? And then I'd be like, look, start now. Start now, bro. Don't start at 25. Absolutely. Start now. Start reading these books. Start going to the gym. That's what I would tell them.
Absolutely. That's great. I think a lot of people just don't start, man. Like, they have these goals, they have these dreams, they want to do things, and they also have fear. And what I always say, what's on the other side of fear? Opportunity. Yeah. And don't be afraid of that opportunity. Just take it head on and go after it.
Paycheck is a drug, dude.
Oh man, I remember my first real estate commission. Yeah. Oh, I made like $6,000. I went to Vegas. I went to did the whole thing, but it was so special. Just that moment of being able to provide, and sales does that for a lot of people. So all my friends who are out there looking to grow their sales careers, just understand that you can get those paychecks. You can make it happen.
Yep.
Just stay consistent, work on your craft, and it's life changing the doors that it can open.
It is, but. Also, and note to that, paycheck, what I mean is for like an hourly employee, right? That gets that security of a check. I'm going to get paid every other Friday. I'm going to get paid. That's what stops people from going after their goals. I think a lot of the times is they don't want to take the risk associated, right? When a lot of these guys are way smarter than me, would be way better entrepreneurs than me, but they're collecting an hourly check that they're getting from their employer, and they don't want to let it go. So to your point, a paycheck is definitely a drug. When you start cashing those entrepreneurial commission checks or whatever it is, it's awesome. But on the same note, the person that's working that hourly job, it's a drug to them too, because they don't want to leave. Right? They just want to keep on.
How can someone who is working that hourly job like make that transition to, we may be working in corporate America at a desk job, Amazon somewhere. How can they make that transition to get out of that, like that mindset of I'm just collecting a check?
So I'll try to answer this, but I always like to be able to answer things from real world experience of what I've experienced. And personally for me, like I've never really had a paycheck type job. I worked at I worked at a car wash at one time, but I was really young, so I always kind of branched out and went straight into mortgages and earned commission. But if I were to give anybody advice, depending on their situation, like it's different for people, right? Like if somebody has a full family, that's a different situation than somebody that doesn't have a family yet, that doesn't have kids. Like you can take more risk if you don't have kids yet, right? If you have kids, your main priority is taking care of them. That's your main God-given priority. So I would say maybe start a side business, start earning a little money on the side if you have a family, start reading books, start that side hustle, right? Work your 40-hour job and work 40 extra hours a week on your side business, work weekends, do all these things to kind of put yourself in a position so that you can quit your job and then move on.
Absolutely. And I've worked hourly jobs, but I've been self-employed the last 4 or 5 years as a journey, and that's been tough being as young as I am. But I would say to people who are looking to take a more serious role in entrepreneurship or looking to take that next leap to don't be afraid. Like, save up your money, be smart, and be prepared to go all into something. Be prepared for what that looks like. Prepare yourself mentally, and that may take preparing yourself physically. I don't think people really are ready for that part. But if you're prepared, it's easier to take that leap, and then it's easier to go accomplish your goals.
Absolutely. Love it.
Absolutely. Man, Corbin, where can people find out more about you? Where can they connect with you at?
My Instagram, just shoot me a DM if you have any questions. Corbin Claypool, just my full name.
Perfect. And I believe Corbin said for all the real estate professionals looking here, are you offering like a promotion for someone who connects you through the podcast?
Yeah, so if you're connected through this podcast and you're going to buy a home, we will cover your appraisal for you.
Absolutely, and that could be a large cost. So take advantage of that. I recommend Corbin for every single one of my real estate deals. I'm always sending his contact information, sending his information out to other people because Corbin has value. He provides value every day. He puts himself out there, and he's been a pillar in my life, and I really appreciate you. Before we leave, I know your family means a lot to you, so your kids might hear this and 6, 7, 8 years.
Right, that'd be weird.
If they hear their dad on this podcast, is there anything that you want to say to your kids?
Man.
They're going to listen to this.
I'm going to go David Goggins. Stay hard, kids. Stay hard.
Absolutely. You think they'll understand that by the time?
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some real powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But Corbin, man, once again, I appreciate you. I appreciate the impact that you had on me as a professional. Your willingness to be a mentor to a young kid just trying to make it happen. And we need more people like you. So thank you for being here.
Thanks,
You're appreciated. You're loved, man.
I appreciate it, man. It was a pleasure being on. It was a lot of fun. So
Awesome.
We got to do it again.
Let's do it, brother.